In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, waves of Jewish migration to Palestine began, driven by a growing nationalist movement known as Zionism. Founded in the late 1800s by Theodor Herzl, Zionism sought to establish a national homeland for the Jewish people in response to widespread anti-Semitism and persecution in Europe. This influx of Jewish immigrants transformed the demographic landscape of Palestine, a primarily Arab territory inhabited by Palestinian Arabs for centuries. The situation changed dramatically following World War I. The war led to the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, which had controlled Palestine for over 400 years. In 1917, during the war, the British government issued the Balfour Declaration, which expressed support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This declaration was met with mixed reactions. While it invigorated Jewish aspirations for statehood, it simultaneously raised fears among the Arab population about the implications of increased Jewish immigration and land acquisition. The declaration was seen by many Palestinian Arabs as a betrayal, especially considering that it conflicted with previous promises made by the British regarding Arab self-determination. Following the war, the League of Nations awarded Britain the mandate to govern Palestine, known as the British Mandate. The British were tasked with facilitating the establishment of a Jewish homeland, while ensuring the rights of existing non-Jewish communities were not compromised. However, the combination of British support for Jewish immigration and growing Arab nationalism led to escalating tensions. The 1920s and 1930s witnessed a rise in violent confrontations, particularly during the Arab Revolt of 1936 to 1939, which sought to end British rule and limit Jewish immigration. The aftermath of World War II exacerbated these tensions. The Holocaust, which resulted in the murder of 6 million Jews, intensified the urgency for a Jewish homeland. In the wake of the war, there was a moral imperative within the international community to support the Jewish cause, leading to increased immigration to Palestine. However, this influx further alienated the Arab population and resulted in a series of violent confrontations as both communities laid claim to the land. The British, unable to manage the mounting violence and the competing national claims of Jews and Arabs, decided to withdraw from Palestine. In 1947, the British government referred the issue of Palestine to the newly formed United Nations, proposing a plan for its future. The UN established a special committee to investigate the problem, leading to the proposal of partitioning Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. The UN General Assembly passed Resolution 181 on November 29, 1947, recommending the partition of Palestine. This plan envisioned an allocation of approximately 55% of the territory to a Jewish state and 45% to an Arab state, with Jerusalem designated as an international city due to its significance to multiple religions. While the Jewish leadership accepted the partition, viewing it as a critical step toward statehood, the Arab leadership rejected the proposal, believing it to be unjust and inherently biased in favor of the Jewish population. The adoption of the partition plan set the stage for immediate and violent conflict between Jewish and Arab populations, ultimately leading to the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 and the subsequent Arab-Israeli War. The repercussions of these events continue to shape the complex and often contentious relations in the region today. illustrating the enduring impact of the 1947 UN Partition Plan on the trajectory of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the broader Middle East. In the aftermath of World War II, the need for a new international framework to promote peace and stability became apparent. The United Nations was formed in 1945, with a primary focus on fostering international cooperation and preventing future conflicts. The UN's commitment to maintaining international peace and security would soon lead to deliberations over the contentious issue of Palestine. As tensions mounted in the region, the UN sought a resolution to the decades-long conflict between Jewish and Arab populations in Palestine. In 1947, the United Nations established the United Nations Special Committee on Palestine, UNSCP, to investigate the situation and to propose a viable solution. Comprised of representatives from various member states, UNSCP's task was to gather information, hear from stakeholders, and formulate recommendations. UNSCP embarked on a thorough examination of the situation in Palestine. Committee members met with leaders from both the Jewish and Arab communities while touring the region to understand the complexities of the conflict. The committee's discussions highlighted the conflicting nationalist aspirations of both groups. Jews sought to establish a homeland in the wake of historical persecution, while Arabs sought to maintain their sovereignty over the land they had inhabited for centuries. After a series of consultations and studies, UNSCP presented its proposal in September 1947, which became known as the Partition Plan. The plan recommended dividing Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem designated as an international city to be governed by a special regime due to its religious significance to multiple faiths. The proposed borders were drawn in a manner that aimed to balance demographic trends and land distributions where Jewish populations were more concentrated. The partition plan was significant for several reasons. Firstly, it represented one of the earliest attempts by the international community to resolve the conflict through a formal plan sanctioned by an international body. The proposal was put to a vote in the United Nations General Assembly on November 29, 1947. The vote resulted in a narrow majority in favor of the plan, with 33 states voting in support, 13 states opposing, and 10 abstaining. The Jewish leadership, including figures such as David Ben-Gurion, accepted the partition plan, viewing it as a legitimate path to statehood and a response to centuries of persecution. Conversely, the Arab leadership unanimously rejected the proposal, seeing it as an infringement on their rights and sovereignty. This rejection would lay the groundwork for heightened hostilities and violence in the months that followed. The partition plan's approval was met with immediate unrest in Palestine. Widespread violence erupted as various groups vied for control over territory. The rejection of the plan by Arab leaders signified not just a denial of the proposed division of land, but ultimately led to an irreversible escalation in hostilities that culminated in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Consequently, the repercussions of the 1947 UN Partition Plan have echoed throughout history, influencing not only the course of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but also shaping international diplomatic efforts regarding peace in the region. As contemporary discussions about peace negotiations continue, understanding the historical context of this pivotal moment highlights the challenges that remain in achieving a lasting resolution. The 1947 United Nations Partition Plan, formerly known as Resolution 181, consisted of several key components that crafted a vision for peace in a historically contentious region. The plan proposed the division of the Mandate of Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with the intention of establishing a framework for coexistence. According to the proposal, approximately 55% of the territory would be allocated for the Jewish state, while around 45% would be designated for the Arab state. This division was intended to approximate the demographic makeup of the region at that time, given the growing Jewish immigration spurred by the Zionist movement and the aftermath of World War II. One significant aspect of the plan was the International Administration of Jerusalem, deemed a city of global importance due to its religious significance to Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Jerusalem was proposed to be governed by a special international regime to ensure access and protection for followers of all three faiths. This designation aimed to remove the city's contentious nature from the conflicts between Jewish and Arab populations and provide a neutral zone for shared governance. Upon the announcement of the plan, the reactions from both Jewish and Arab communities revealed deep divisions. The Jewish leadership, represented by groups such as the Jewish Agency, welcomed the proposal as a critical step towards statehood and viewed it as a legitimate, albeit imperfect, recognition of their national aspirations. They believed that the plan could pave the way for the establishment of a viable Jewish state in the homeland that they had yearned to reclaim, particularly in the context of the horrors faced during the Holocaust. Conversely, Arab leaders and populations vehemently rejected the plan, perceiving it as an unjust allocation of land that disregarded the rights of the Arab inhabitants of Palestine. They viewed the proposed partition as an infringement on their sovereignty and an endorsement of what they considered the illegal establishment of a Jewish state on land that had been inhabited by Arabs for centuries. The rejection was underpinned by broader concerns about nationalism and territorial integrity, echoing sentiments heard not just in Palestine but across the Arab world. The initial response to the partition plan ultimately set the stage for escalating violence. The period following the resolution saw growing tensions manifest in clashes between Jewish and Arab communities. These hostilities escalated into full-scale conflict in 1948, leading to the First Arab-Israeli War, which resulted in significant demographic shifts, including the displacement of a large number of Palestinians, a historical event that remains a focal point of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The partition plan's implications were profound, as it not only influenced the immediate reactions, but also for decades to come, shaping the political landscape and the quest for peace in the region. International actors subsequently grappled with the outcomes of the plan and the continued hostilities, leading to various peace efforts and negotiations throughout the latter half of the 20th century and into the 21st century. The legacy of the 1947 Partition Plan underscores the complexity of territorial disputes and national identities, laying the groundwork for ongoing discussions about statehood, rights, and coexistence amidst continuing strife. Understanding these historical layers is crucial for contextualizing contemporary conflicts and reconciliation efforts in the Middle East, including recent diplomatic measures aimed at easing tensions in regions such as Gaza. The United Nations Partition Plan, although a significant step towards resolving the contentious issue of Palestine, elicited a complex array of responses from global powers and regional players. The United States, under President Harry S. Truman, was one of the first countries to express support for the plan. Truman's administration believed that the establishment of a Jewish state would help stabilize the region, and that a solution to the Jewish refugee crisis, exacerbated by World War II, was imperative. However, this support was not unconditional. The U.S. also recognized the need to address Arab concerns and proposed measures to ensure their rights were preserved. On the other hand, the Soviet Union initially supported the partition plan as a means to undermine British influence in the Middle East. Soviet leader Joseph Stalin and his advisors saw this support as an opportunity to expand their influence among Arab nations and promote communist ideals. This alignment of interests highlighted the shifting geopolitical landscape following World War II, where both superpowers aimed to project their power and ideology in newly decolonized regions. In stark contrast, the Arab nations uniformly condemned the partition plan. Leaders from Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, among others, viewed the proposal as a direct threat to Arab sovereignty and a violation of the rights of Palestinians. They contended that the plan favored the European Jewish diaspora over the indigenous Arab population. As a result, Arab states declared their intent to resist the plan and vowed to support Palestinian Arabs in opposing any establishment of a Jewish state. This widespread rejection solidified alliances among Arab nations, setting the stage for future conflicts. The immediate aftermath of the partition plan saw rising tensions that erupted into violence, culminating in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Following the declaration of Israel's independence on May 14, 1948, neighboring Arab states invaded within hours, marking the beginning of a conflict that would alter the region's political dynamics forever. The war resulted in significant territorial changes, with Israel expanding its borders beyond the areas allocated in the partition plan. Approximately 700,000 Palestinians were displaced, either fleeing or being expelled from their homes, creating a refugee crisis that remains unresolved to this day. Long-term consequences of the partition plan and the subsequent war have perpetuated a cycle of conflict in the region. The founding of Israel has remained a contentious issue, fostering ongoing disputes over land, statehood, and national identity. The division of Palestine set a precedent for subsequent wars, intifadas, and peace negotiations, with each development influenced by the unresolved questions stemming from the original partition proposal. The complexities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict continue to resonate in modern geopolitics, demonstrating how historical decisions shape contemporary realities. The failure to implement the partition plan in a manner acceptable to both parties has led to a legacy of mistrust and hostility that complicates current peace efforts. Contemporary initiatives, including international mediation involving figures such as former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, seek to address the long-standing grievances rooted in these foundational decisions. Understanding the implications of the 1947 United Nations Partition Plan provides crucial insights into the ongoing challenges of achieving a lasting peace in the Middle East, particularly as debates about borders, sovereignty, and rights continue to unfold today.